Welcome to the second episode of the Ranch, a Dallas sports podcast. My name is Tex, this is James, and we're going to be going over everything that happened in Texas sports this past weekend. So how you doing, James?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing pretty good, except for the Rangers. They are not doing good. They are have fallen out of the wild card spot. They are currently looking to try to get back into the playoffs, playing from outside in. They are tied at the moment with the Seattle Mariners, but it's not looking good. I mean, they're on a win streak right now, but they're coming up to a difficult part of their schedule. And they've kind of just fallen off. You know, All-Star break, they were looking like best team in baseball, and now they're looking like a bunch of scrubs, which is, scrubs in the sense of like what everyone expected. I think everyone thought that they would maybe fight for a wild card spot, but not contend for the AL West. But their pitching has just not been good, especially against Houston, giving up over 30 runs in 3 games. Just an insane pitching. I wouldn't even call it a performance. Did you get a chance to catch any of those games?
I saw some of them at the bar. I was definitely watching a few of those and going, "Oh, we're getting killed."
Yeah, killed they did. I think they set some sort of record for most home runs given up in a 3-game series. I couldn't tell you exactly. But what I do know is they have, in their upcoming games, they have to play at Toronto, at Cleveland, and then at home versus Boston. Obviously, Toronto, playoff contender, or playoff team. Cleveland, not really a playoff team, maybe fighting for a wild card spot. Boston, good team, but not a playoff contender either. Maybe might sneak in there. So if they can get through Toronto, they can get through Cleveland, they can get through Boston, they're back in it. But really, like I said last time, then they come back home versus Seattle. Then they have to go to Los Angeles to play the A's, and then a 4-game series to end the series off against Seattle. So it really is, I mean, if they get past these next 3 teams, it really is the Seattle matchups that matter the most in terms of them making the playoffs. And I know I said last week that the Rangers would be making the World Series if they get into the playoffs. I still think they can go far, especially if they get hot at the right time. You know, if the pitching starts to click, if the offense starts to click, then I think they can go far. But from what I've watched, it's looking like a wild card exit, unfortunately, unless we see some kind of drastic turn. That, you know, who knows? Who knows what could happen in the next month? But have you noticed anything particularly when you were watching those games, or is it just overall they're not playing good?
I think overall they're just not playing good. They started off really hot as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of cooled off and hovered around 500, and now they've obviously slumped. They lost a ton of games, and I think that I think they're burnt out. I don't know a way to describe it. They're burnt out, and there's not much for them to do at this point about it. They can heat up and maybe change that viewpoint, but I think the bullpen is a bit too much of an issue, you know?
I mean, yeah, the bullpen has been an issue what seems like the entire year. Their strength of their team was their starting pitching, and their starting pitching has not been good the past couple games. And we saw Scherzer just get lit up versus Houston. Let's see if I can find specifically this month. So they had 9 games so far. They're at a 7.35 ERA with a 315 on base average. I mean, that's just unacceptable for a playoff team. They're at a 3.33 win percentage, 3-6. Obviously, too early to tell. This is the overall pitching stats, but compare that to the previous months. August, they were at a 3.53 ERA. July, they were at a 5.64. June, they were at a 4.13. May, they were at a 3.95, and April, they were at a insane 3.29. All of those months besides September, they've been in a sub 300 batting average, opponent's batting average. Which I think is the big thing. You know, you can give up the occasional home runs here and there. You can give up the RBIs, but keeping players off the base, keeping them off the pace path and not allowing those occasional home runs to go from one run to now 2 runs, 3 runs, or maybe 4 runs, as we saw with Houston. So they need a pitching shift. Their bats have been pretty good. They've cooled off a little bit in terms of where they were at a August average of 250 average with a 325 on base percentage. Obviously, small sample size compared. 243 for September, 250 for August, but it's been going down a downhill slope. But still, small sample size. So I think we just need to see them kind of pick back up at the end of the season. And hopefully, we saw a win today versus the Blue Jays 10-4, which is a 3-game win streak. Hopefully that's some fire to ignite in them to kind of get back in the race. And they're not too far in the AL West. They're only 2 games back from Houston. So theoretically, they still could win the West.
It's a tight race, yeah. Yeah, it's a tight race. They could still get in there, but I think what we've seen is that how you end the season tends to be how you go into the playoffs, and I think we're getting too close to the end of the season, and they're too cold right now. But you never know. Like they could just suddenly catch fire at the end and be fine. I don't know. And sometimes that's just not true at all. Like I said, you saw in the NBA this past season that the Denver Nuggets kind of stopped caring at the end of the season and then just easily bulldozed their way into the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And this won. So I don't know. Generally speaking, how you end the season is how you go into the playoffs, but not always. So I guess there's still some hope for them, but I just as of right now I don't see them being contending.
Yeah, like I said, they're gonna have to start that fire and ignite it. But the Rangers been very disappointing the past week. Moving on to college football, big game for college football and Big 12 in general. Texas going to Alabama, beating them what seemed very easily, beating them by 10 points, outscoring them 21-8 in the fourth quarter. Quinn Ewers making a name for himself, making him a Heisman contender, I think, if he continues this up, throwing 349 yards, averaging 9.2 yards a play, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And I think it's that 0 interceptions that is the key for this game. Obviously, takeaways are what wins football games, but he was sacked 0 times, and he didn't give up the ball at all in turnovers. And I compare that to Alabama's quarterback, who had 2 interceptions. And also, you can't knock the defense for Texas. They were getting pressure to the quarterback often. Obviously, the run game looked hit or miss there. But Texas moving up to ranked number 4, looking to contend for not only a Big 12 championship, but a college football playoff berth. Did you get a chance to check out any of the highlights of the game at all?
I didn't necessarily get to see that game, but I did see that Alabama put Texas's band way up in the top of the stands.
Yeah, they did that as kind of quote unquote revenge. So last year when Alabama played at Texas, the Texas was like, hey, you can put your band in the top, and Alabama decided not even to bring a band. So this was kind of like, hey, kind of screw you moment. I think that's all just media talk. Who really cares? It's just the band. They're not. Not saying like they're not good performers, but they're not having that direct of an impact on the game that I think we all might think. Like people like A&M fans might think with their 12th man on the field. But yeah, they put them all the way in the corner, and I heard even that you could still hear them on TV. That they were that loud in that stadium.
Oh yeah, I did see that, and I did see the touchdown that iced the game for Texas. So
yeah, it was a crazy touchdown. Didn't really have a running game the entire night. Only had 105 rushing yards, averaging 2.8 yards an attempt, and only one rushing touchdown. Obviously, that one that iced it. But it really was the pass game, I think, and the lack of mistakes. Hopefully, Texas can keep that up. Obviously, they went out the season. They make the playoffs. I think every projection has that. Maybe a one-loss Texas can make the college football playoffs, but from the way I'm seeing it right now, yours is not the front runner for the Heisman. I still think this is Caleb Williams' award to lose. He is just balling out of control, but I think if you're going based on, if I was going to pick my top three people to win this Heisman, it's going to be Caleb Williams at one. He's been just what seems unstoppable. Quinn Ewers, if he can keep this up, I think he has a legitimate case for saying, "Hey, look how good I've been." And then not really a shocking, but Sanders from Colorado, the quarterback, Deion
Shador, yeah.
Sanders' son, has been insane these two games. Now, granted, he played TCU in Nebraska. I know TCU was ranked, and it was at TCU, and the TCU just made the college football championship game. Not the same TCU team from last year. Still an impressive win, and Nebraska as well, historically good school. But this kid seems to be something different, and if he can continue this versus Oregon and versus USC in the coming weeks, he could jump his name up all the way to the favorite for the Heisman.
I think that USC game will be circled on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean
And then
this seems as much as like a Quinn Ewers Alabama Heisman game to Sanders USC Heisman game. Like whoever outperforms the other jumps their Heisman odds even further. And if it's Caleb Williams, I think as long as he continues the year, I think that's his award to lose, like I said before. But moving on from Texas, I know UCS had a close game, or UCF, excuse me, had a close game. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it was an 18-16 game, but like I said, it was really weird. Like I said, you look at the stats sheets and you look at everything like that. John Rice Plumlee, 270 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Looks pretty bad game and 18 points. But honestly, the offense actually looked really, really good, and Plumlee actually looked really, really good. It was every time they got into the red zone, they just shot themselves in the foot. Like the commentators are going crazy. Like if you watch that game, they were losing their mind because every time they got into the red zone, just something stupid happened. And those interceptions were both tipped by the receivers. Should have caught them. Should have been 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, really. But like if those had been caught, if they didn't keep shooting themselves in the foot, they should have won that game like by like 30 points. But
Yeah, I'm seeing here that Plumlee was averaging over a first down per passing play. He was averaging 11.3 yards per attempt, which is a pretty
oh yeah,
crazy stat.
he looked great. Yeah, like he was throwing bombs down the field. Like the all game is like every pass he threw looked really good. Um, which is unfortunate because now he's going to be out for a few weeks. He got drilled at the end of the game, and his like leg like folded up underneath him, and so I think they said he's going to be out for at least a few weeks. So I think hurts us quite a bit. But I think because I think if they had been able to continue playing at a decently high level, that they could have contended with some of these other Big 12 teams that are out there like OU and maybe Texas. Probably not Texas as much, but like some of these other teams that are out there, I think they would have been able to contend a little bit better. But I think the quarterback is going to be a big question mark now.
Yeah, I mean they kind of have a good game though next week to figure out that question mark as they're playing at home versus Villanova. Not really a major threat in terms of football. If this was basketball, completely different game. But Villanova going to be a good game for them to figure everything out, and then they have to go at Kansas State, a ranked team. That's going to be really their first true test in the Big 12, first Big 12 game as well. But after that, you got Baylor, Kansas, both sneaky teams that can be really good. Then you have at Oklahoma, could be a very good team. West Virginia, at Cincinnati, at home versus Oklahoma State, then at Tech versus and ending the season versus Houston. Going to be a difficult one for them, I think, especially with Plumlee being down. But he should be back probably by that Oklahoma game. So if they can hold out versus Baylor, versus Kansas State, and he could be back versus Kansas. I don't know the full extent of his injury. Could be back, and you might be looking at a 5-0 team that's on a hot streak, trying to contend for a Big 12 championship or championship appearance. And I mean, they beat Kansas State, Baylor, and Kansas. You could see them in the top 25 as well.
Yeah, I think it all just depends on Plumlee and how bad that leg injury is.
Well, speaking more on Big 12 football news, the Oregon Ducks beat the Texas Tech Raiders 38-30. This was a close one, going down to the wire. Texas Tech trying to get a Hail Mary at the end of the game, just throwing up a prayer to try and get a chance for a 2-point conversion. Unfortunately, they're not able to do so, meaning Texas Tech is now 0-2. I believe this is like the first time Tech is 0-2. I think they said since like the 80s or the 90s to start the season, which is kind of a crazy stat. But in terms of like Big 12 play, it kind of shocking. Texas Tech was like a scary team for me. I mean, losing to Wyoming, insane. Now losing to Oregon, I mean, you're expected to lose that game, but still, it was a close game. Both games a one-possession game, and they don't really have too difficult of a schedule coming up. They might be able to muster something up and go to the Big 12 conference, obviously, or conference championship. Obviously, they have not lost any conference games, so it doesn't truly impact them that much in terms of the Big 12 conference championship appearances. But I'm not very confident in their conference play if they can't beat Wyoming, and they, they're going into Tarleton State. If they lose that game, the season's pretty much over.
I think the Oregon Ducks is one thing because Bo Nix has been in college for a billion years, so you'd hope he'd be pretty good by this point.
He's pulling a Stinson Bennett.
Yeah, yeah, I was like, yeah, you think Stetson Bennett was bad? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think my expectation of the Raiders is that they're always the Red Raiders is that they're always going to be like a mid team. That my expectation is like you could have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and set the single season, like set the single game record for most passing yards ever and still lose. That's my expectation of the Red Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think they had Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, and they're still not really competing as much as you would expect. Not a good day overall for Big 12 Texas teams, as Baylor also loses to Utah. Ranked number 12, they lose 20-13. Again, a one-possession game. I wasn't able to catch this one, but just looking at the stats here, not overly impressive. I mean, 12 for 28, 218 yards, averaging 7.8 yards a play with 2 interceptions for the Baylor quarterback. That's a pretty good game besides those interceptions. Averaging 7.8 yards per play is a very nice average. That's almost a first down. But that 12 for 28 is probably what hurt him the most. Rushing seemed, not terrible. 121 yards of 29 attempts, averaging 4.2 yards a carry and 1 touchdown. Just never really had those long plays as they had. Their longest play was a receiving catch for 47 yards, and their longest rushing was 16. Defense, I guess, just not able to hold out and get the pressure of the quarterback. I see here they had 3 sacks and 6 tackles for losses. I can't see pressure or anything like that to the quarterback. They were able to get a pick, but I think it's the defense that really cost them this game, which is unfortunate as they are another Big 12 team that, is kind of middle of the pack. Sometimes can get hot, sometimes can get cold, but they usually end up in that 25, maybe 30 ranking. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they will as they go 0-2. Were you able to catch this game at all?
No, I was not. I think the only game that I really caught was the UCF one, but
So I'm looking at the win probability for this game, and around the end of the second quarter, Baylor was about 50-50. And then we get to the start of the fourth quarter. Baylor is at 70% chance to win. They get to their lowest of 90% chance to win. And it looks like right at the very end, Utah comes back and wins it. So obviously that's they gave up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and they didn't score at all. So that seems like it's a defensive issue. Also mixed with some offensive issues. I mean, it's not scoring at all is rough. Although it looks like there might have been an onside kick as well. So, who knows for Baylor? They may come back and perform better, use this as a learning experience. But overall, in terms of Texas schools in the Big 12, the only one that's undefeated right now is Texas. And the only one with 1 loss, there's 2 with 1 losses, is Houston and TCU. So For a conference that is strengthened by its Texas-based college football, they are not performing up to expectations and not what most people expected. Moving on to some better news. The Dallas Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl.
The
You can
Super
call
Bowl.
it right here. We're both saying it. They absolutely thrashed the Giants at home, or at the Giants' home, 40-0. 2 defensive touchdowns, one on a pick six, one on a blocked kick. Dak, I mean, didn't even have to put up stats. Only threw 143 yards. Tony Pollard had 2 rushing touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb had 77 yards. I mean, this game was over by what seemed like the first quarter, maybe, but definitely by halftime.
Yeah, I mean the first quarter thing is it was 16-0 at the end of the first quarter, which was definitely a pretty significant deficit. But I think you look at like the Eagles are our rivals and the worst team ever. They were also up 16-0 at the end of the first quarter from 2 defensive touchdowns. And then, or I don't know if they were both defensive touchdowns, but they had 2 defensive takeaways that led to touchdowns and to scores. But then that ended up being a pretty close game at the end. So I didn't want to like get super excited, but no, they just ran away with it. Yeah, the Cowboys offense really wasn't on the field. I don't know if I ever need to see our offense again.
Yeah.
Just have the defense out there.
Yeah,
Shit.
it's surprising. You would think like, hey, if we want to win games, keep our offense on the field. No, put our defense on the field. We'll get more points that way.
I
Looking
was
at
like,
this,
yeah,
go ahead.
even if the offense never took a snap, we still would have won like 14-0.
Well, I mean, definitely was shutting them out. Obviously we missed an extra point because we're the Cowboys and we can't seem to figure out our kicking situation. But looking at this win probability scale, the Giants had 1 point in when they were projected to win this game, and it was when they were driving on their first drive. They had a 52.5% chance to win this game. After that, it was all over. Cowboys never lost the probability of winning that game. I mean, obviously the Giants never really put up any kind of muster on offense. Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes looking like he's Danny Pennies out there, throwing 15, 28, 104 yards, 2 picks. Saquon Barkley, 12 carries, 51 yards. Not a terrible day for Barkley. Obviously, he gets paid a lot more to be a lot better. But Dallas, up on top in the conference or in the East standings. I think in the conference as well. I mean, the tiebreaker is points for, I believe, and they definitely got a lot of points.
Yeah, I think something to keep in mind though is I think it was rough on both teams for passing because that was a monsoon. It was torrential downpour. Because yeah, Dak he was 143 yards, but he was also 13 for 24. It was like 54% completion.
That's
And
kind
part
of
of that
concerning. But I
it
like you
is a bit
said,
concerning.
like you
But
said, it is
also,
the rain and the weather affecting him.
but also it's important to note that I think we had a lot of drops from our receivers.
Yeah, and that again
Um,
can be attributed towards the wet conditions. I mean, New York has not been good the past 2 days in terms of weather for football. So, but I mean, with the defense being able to hold on to the ball, it seems with their 2 picks and their pick and their blocked kick, didn't really affect them.
mhm. So I mean, yeah, the rain I think definitely played a big factor. As it seemed rough on both teams for passing, but um, honestly, I can't even really tell you what the it factor was for Dallas other than like the defense is just monster. 7 sacks, dude. I think that was a record for most sacks on most team sacks on opening like on the opening week, I think.
Real quick, we'll get back to the Cowboys. Breaking news: Coach Robert Saleh says it's not good as Jets fear torn Achilles for Aaron Rodgers. Will get MRI on Tuesday. This could be the end of Aaron Rodgers. This might be a retirement Aaron Rodgers season. He may have signed with the Jets, played 1 drive, and he may not come back. Obviously, we wish him, the best health back. But that is kind of a concerning news for a older quarterback such as himself. Definitely a Hall of Famer if he was to retire today. I don't think anyone's arguing that. But New York fans having a lot of hope for this signing, and it all gets ripped away. Jets are gonna jet, but that's rough to hear. But yeah, any new or anything you can say about Aaron Rodgers? I mean, his long tenure with the Jets.
Who said I wanted him to come back healthy?
Oh, come
Um,
on. We wish everyone a good health.
no, I do wish everyone good health. Um, I think he's been a demon, and he has plagued the Cowboys for years. And I do hope he retires. But no, I don't want him to break his ankles or whatever he did, but or his Achilles. Um, yeah, that poor guy didn't even throw a single pass for the Jets.
All that
That's
hype in the off season. Unfortunate.
yeah,
Very unfortunate. But
didn't
back to
throw
the
a pass for them.
Cowboys. Back to the Cowboys. Back to better news. Um, like you said,
Well, it's good news for us because I think we'll win next week now.
yeah, but you don't want to win that way. Um, Obviously, I mean, well, they won today against the Bills, who are Super Bowl favorites or highly Super Bowl favorites. So who knows? Maybe Zach Wilson's the answer. Quote unquote, he is not the answer. Um, but the Cowboys obviously score 40 points against the Giants. They have a history the past 10 years past 10 opening games against the Giants, I believe it was, or maybe it's the past 10 first games they play against the Giants. They're undefeated. They don't lose to
No,
the
we just won
Giants.
10 straight. Yeah,
Oh,
we just
okay,
won
yeah, we
10
just won
straight.
10 straight. We don't lose to the Giants. Dak does not lose to the Giants. Dak does not lose to the Eagles. Dak's going to the Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying right there. Dak is leading us to the Super Bowl. No, actually, Micah Parsons is probably leading us to the Super Bowl. But do you think this defense can keep it up? I mean, this is a strong start, but it's a long season, especially for football, which is a very intense sport for these guys to play all season long.
Um, yeah, the defense kind of hemorrhaged a bit in the middle of last season, especially like the run defense, like uh, where like I don't know if you noticed, like around the Bears game, started going like, I don't know what happened to our defense, but they picked it up at the right time. Is obviously in the playoffs, as the defense went, okay, we're back, and retired old man Tom and
Well, we don't know.
uh,
I hear the Jets need a quarterback.
um, we retired him. Okay, we retired old man. We retired the old man.
I do
Um,
think that Bears game, though, I think that Bears team was the perfect answer for the Cowboys defense. Because if you think about that Bears team, they had Darnell Mooney, they had David Montgomery, and they had Justin Field. That is a run heavy team. That is basically playing against the Atlanta Falcons. Like, we didn't have a good run defense, and I think we pretty much fixed that in the draft. I mean, Maxie Smith seemed pretty good last night. Um, or sorry,
and we picked Mozzie,
good. Mozzie, yes, that's his name. Uh,
and we picked up Jonathan Hankins too, to kind of help with the run defense.
like this is one of the best Dallas defenses. I mean, obviously the best one I've seen in my lifetime, I would say, but this is probably one of the best Dallas defenses on paper in their history. This is a crazy defense that gets the turnovers they need, gets the pressure to the quarterback, and they seem more disciplined too. I don't know if Mike McCarthy, changed something being the full-time head coach, or if Dan Campbell's, you know, just really going into these guys and reinforcing a discipline into them to not commit so many terrible penalties that seem to be plaguing the Cowboys in the past.
So it's Dan Quinn. Dan Campbell's the "we're gonna eat your kneecaps" guy on the Lions.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
That's but yeah, and that's the thing is the Cowboys, they always have like a weird little thing that plagues them throughout the year, and we're like, this won't be a problem. Then we get to the playoffs, and then it's an issue. 2 years ago, it was the penalties, and obviously we got to that playoff game and had broke a record for most penalties in a playoff game. And then last year it was the tip drills and interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So Hopefully, we can avoid having something like that this year.
Obviously, it's
But
week one,
honestly,
so like, we have
mhm.
a long season ahead of us.
But if the Cowboys defense can keep it up throughout the whole season, I don't think this is just one of the best defenses in Dallas history. I think it might be one of the best defenses just ever in NFL history.
That's a tall task to compete with. I mean, you got some great
It is,
defenses in the NFL.
it is, but we're asking that from our defensive coordinator who led the Legion of Boom. So I think it's perfectly doable if
Hey, Legion of Boom 2.0. Just do not play Arizona. I don't know if you know, but like Arizona had ruined the Legion of Boom in one way or another. Richard Sherman got injured at Arizona, never played for the Seahawks again. Cam Chancellor got injured at Arizona, never plays for the Seahawks again. And then Eric Thomas, or who was their strong safety? Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas was his name. Gets injured there, flips off his sideline, never plays for Seattle again. I mean, just do not play Arizona and we'll be fine.
so bad news.
We play Arizona,
We do.
and it's at Arizona. All I'm
In like two
saying,
weeks, I think.
yeah, in 2 weeks. All I'm saying is, if Micah Parsons gets injured and is out for the season at Arizona, that stadium is cursed. It almost may be more cursed than the Commanders stadium in terms of injuring a quarterback and ruining his career. Um, that just set in stone. Having a good defense, don't play at Arizona.
I don't know, but we've got a lot of pieces on defense too, though. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even some of the nice underrated pieces like Oso Digizuwa, he's a pretty good guy on the line. Demarcus Lawrence is great. If Sam Williams can stop uh, driving 800 miles an hour, he'll be good. um, you saw that what Jerry Jones said. He was like, "Well, last time he was driving 90 miles an hour, and this time he was driving 70. So I think we're getting better." Like, it's just,
That's not the point, Jerry.
like, all right, old man.
Well,
He
going
needs to
into
stop driving.
take his keys away. Going into next week, obviously the predictor has not updated for the injury of Aaron Rodgers, I don't believe, but we have a 62% chance of winning this game. I mean, with Rodgers going down, Zach Wilson is not it. He's not the answer. If he was, they wouldn't have signed Aaron Rodgers. So I think this one might be another shootout. Do I think it's going to be a shutout? Probably not. Garrett Wilson is a great wide receiver. That defense on the Jets is good. I think this is where we could see a 3 interception night for Dak. But I think overall we'll still win. My final prediction, I'm going to guess 28-17. I think that's going to be the final score. Dallas winning, obviously.
Like I said, I think I said this to you earlier. I was like, if what that game to me is it's defense versus defense. Remove the offenses from the equation. I think the Dallas defense is better than the Jets defense, and that's not a knock on the Jets defense. The Jets defense is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just there's different levels to it. I think the Dallas defense is going to be better. Now let's bring the quarterbacks into it. Zach Wilson versus our defense. I don't think is going to go well. I think Dak Prescott versus the Jets defense might not go super well, but it'll probably go better than Zach Wilson versus ours.
Yeah, and
And
obviously, if they have Aaron Rodgers, it's a whole different situation. Aaron Rodgers is our kryptonite, and he'll always find a way to beat us. But like you said, Zach Wilson is not going to perform like Aaron Rodgers.
yeah, and I mean, and Josh Allen just had a terrible game against the Jets,
He
like the
did.
Jets defense. Um, and I like Josh Allen. I like Josh Allen a lot. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks, but he just put up a real stinker, 3 interceptions and a fumble. That was a real stinker. But also I think just quarterback style between Josh Allen and Dak Prescott. Um, I think Dak takes less risks than Josh Allen. Like last year was a bit different, and I think part of that is our receivers didn't really get separation, and so Dak is forcing throws into tight windows a lot more often. I think we've got an upgraded receiver core this year, and so hopefully he's not having to take those kinds of risks, and hopefully that'll lower those interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
But but that's been one of the bigger gripes about Dak just in general is that he wasn't a huge risk taker, and he's always had low interception numbers because he doesn't try and take those risky throws. But I think against that Jets defense that's kind of what you're going to need is you're going to need somebody who's going to game manage more than try and run out there and win, because I think if you're trying to play hero against that Jets defense, is you're going to get what just happened with Josh Allen.
Yeah. Well, overall, a really good week for the Cowboys. Looking in to have another good week this Sunday against the Jets. But I think that's going to be it. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Well, we're going to the Super Bowl.
We're going to the Super Bowl.
I don't want to. I think we just cursed it. I think maybe if we say it a few more times, it'll like undo the curse, right?
It'll become a meme. It already is a meme, but we'll make it even more of a meme.
Because I don't think any of us are like legitimately saying that.
I mean, do I think we have a good shot? Yeah, I think this is our window of opportunity. But who knows? Washington won their game. They could go to the Super Bowl. Who knows? Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they won against the Cardinals.
Yeah. Hey, well, win's a win. But anyways, that's been this week in Dallas sports. If you're watching on Spotify, make sure to leave a rating. And if you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and let us know what you want us to talk about, or if there's anything we missed in general about this week. And we'll see y'all next week.